Welcome to the August Assessment and Accountability webinar. This is Kevin Whitman. I'm the Superintendent's Director for Assessment and Accountability. Normally, I would start with a few housekeeping notes, but since this month's webinar is recorded, I will jump right into the content. First, I want to thank everyone who responded to our communication survey asking for feedback on our newsletters and webinars. We want to repeat that process each year to continually improve. Of course, you can always contact us directly at any time to share any thoughts or feedback. Based on the feedback, here are our plans for school year 2021-2022. We will continue to have the webinar monthly. The webinars will still be on Wednesdays, and we will post recorded versions for folks who may not be able to participate at the time. However, we will try to slow down a bit. We script our webinars for accessibility reasons. That's critical, but sometimes we can speed through it too fast. We'll take more time and offer longer waiting times for Q&A after each section so you can digest the information and formulate questions. We will also consolidate some repeated information for the ISATs. As students begin to return to school this fall, they will need to participate in the standard required fall assessments. So provisional English learners in grades K through 12 will need to participate in the WIDA screeners. And all students in grades K through 3 will need to take the fall IRI in either August or September. However, there are also some new requirements if your district or charter school is receiving the governor's learning loss funds. Talk to your district or charter school's business manager if you're unsure whether you did get these funds. There are two separate learning loss funding buckets. There's one for K4 and one for K12. Districts and charter schools could apply for both of them or just one. For both the K4 and K12 learning loss, any students who participated in programs or interventions supported by these funds need to participate in the fall IRI by September 10th. If your district or charter school is receiving the K12 learning loss funds, supported students will also need to participate in the ISAT interim comprehensive assessments or shortened interim comprehensive assessments by September 10th. We know that September 10th date is early, particularly for some of our northern Idaho districts, but we need the data by that point to meet a requirement to report this information to the legislature. Looking ahead, districts and charter schools receiving these funds will also need to have students participate in these assessments in December. The window for that participation is December 1st through 10th. To add a little more detail to the interim requirements associated with the K-12 funds, this chart shows the assessments that students would be expected to take. In September, students would take an ICA or SICA associated with their grade level last spring. In December, students would take an ICA or SICA associated with their current grade level. Students in gray cells would not have that spring 2021 benchmark, so would not need to participate. Finally, I wanted to briefly mention the reporting schedule for last year's assessment data. The IRI and SAT results are posted on our website at the URL listed here. For the ISAT results and updated report card, we expect that will be sometime around mid-September based on our processing time.
Hello, Idaho. My name is Paul Kleinert. I coordinate the National Assessment of Educational Progress, otherwise known as the Nation's Report Card. My background is in educational psychology, and I'm going to use the psychology piece in today's slides to see if you notice a subliminal message. This message debunks a common myth about NAEP school selection. At the end of my portion of the presentation, I will draw attention to this message to see if you noticed it. Today, I am going to give details about how schools are selected to participate in the NAEP. First, the National Center of Education Statistics, NCES, identifies potential schools statewide. The data that they use is from the Common Core of Data, which our accountability coordinator, Ayaka, uploads at the end of the year every year from IC. These data are outdated, so one of the processes I have to do every year is fill in certain gaps. What new schools were opened? Did schools close? Did schools merge? Once there is an updated school list, then NCES places schools into groups based on the students' demographics and the school's locations. Notice that already the focus has moved from school to student. Once again, we are using Common Core data estimates, so these students will actually be selected later when we have student lists. These school groups are then ordered based on student achievement, so Idaho results will be best representative of the population. This is a well-researched method of finding the best results with diverse groups of students, more effective than random selection. Then, using this grouping, we order the schools and make our selection to get the correct number of students, about 10,000 in Idaho. This works out to be somewhere around 2,500 per grade and subject. If you ever wondered, why is my school frequently selected? This next step is why. Schools are then selected systematically based on the previously established ordering by location, demographics, and student achievement. The focus is on student selection, not school selection. Generally, if a school is chosen regularly, it is because the school's enrollment in the grade is large and diverse. After this selection occurs, then I work with NCES to confirm that the schools selected are eligible. Does the school have the correct population? Do all students in the school qualify for the alternate assessment? Are all students in the same building? If there is even one student that is eligible, the NAEP will come to this school and assess this one student. Finally, once I receive fall IC data that includes updated student lists, I send these student lists from the selected schools to NCES to perform the student selection. Individual students are identified in the buildings that are eligible, and then test planning begins. I bring this up now because very soon districts will receive notification of school selection. This year is the full state level NAEP, which means we will receive Idaho results. This state level NAEP should have happened last year, but due to COVID-19, it was postponed to this year. Okay, did you notice the subliminal message on the previous slides? The message to which I referred in my introductory slide was, schools are not selected randomly. Knowing how students are selected within schools should help dispel the myth that if a school is selected regularly, it is less likely to test in the future. In reality, it is the opposite. If a school is selected regularly, the chances are extremely high that it will continue to be selected. As always, if you have any questions, please contact me.
Welcome back, Idaho. My name is Andrew Bennett, and I am here to give you some ELPA updates and reminders to start the 2021-2022 school year. Yearly certification is now required for all access for ELS assessments and WIDA screeners. District test coordinators should ensure that all test administrators are certified to administer the specific English language proficiency assessment prior to their use. District test coordinators can view completed trainings within the WIDA Secure portal under the Account Management and Training Status tile. To start the certification process, test administrators will need a WIDA Secure portal account to gain access to the trainings, tutorials, and certification quizzes. New test administrators should contact their district test coordinators or WIDA Client Services Center to have a WIDA Secure portal account created for them. WIDA Screener for Kindergarten has now replaced Kindergarten WAPT as Idaho's English Language Proficiency Screener. WIDA Screener for Kindergarten is given to potential English learners enrolling in kindergarten and first semester grade 1. This change took effect on August 1st, 2021. The screen out criteria for each enrollment period is listed in the table below. Potential English learners enrolling into first semester kindergarten only need to complete the integrated listening and speaking domains, and training, certification, quizzes, and detailed information about how to administer the screener can be found on the WIDA Secure portal. A few ELMS enhancements were made to accommodate the newly adopted WIDA Screener for Kindergarten. WIDA Screener for Kindergarten has been added as WIDA KG under the test type field and should be selected when entering in screener information. Also, starting this year, a child's home language survey is required to be uploaded in ELMS at the time the screener scores are recorded. ELMS will not allow screener scores to be recorded until the child's home language survey is uploaded. The enhancement allows all Idaho districts the ability to review a parent's original home language survey response. And staff entering a child's screener scores must not only save the scores, but must select the Submit button. Once the Submit button has been selected, ELMS will automatically assign an L status based on the scores submitted. The WIDA Secure Portal is getting a makeover. This makeover is being deployed on September 1st. You can learn more about what's staying the same and what's changing by visiting the redesigned WIDA Secure Portal coming September 2021 webpage, and you may visit the recorded webinar Getting Familiar with the Redesigned WIDA Secure Portal QA webinar from Tuesday, August 10th by accessing it within the WIDA Secure Portal. Please note that upon launch of the WIDA Secure Portal redesign on September 1st, the WIDA Screener for Kindergarten oral language and literacy certification quizzes will be integrated into one training module. Consequently, to retain a record of the test administrator's certification within the new WIDA Secure Portal, both quizzes will need to be completed prior to the redesigned portal launch. Test administrators may also wait until the new version of the WIDA Secure Portal is launched to complete their trainings. On June 24th, the Data Recognition Corporation released the annual DRC Insight Secure Application and Central Office Services Service Device installers to WIDA AMS. It is strongly recommended that districts update to the latest version of both the DRC Insight Secure Application and the Central Office Services Service Device before they begin testing. The DRC Insight Secure Application is the secure web browser testing interface which must be installed on a district's testing devices. If your district configured the DRC Insight Secure Application to automatically update, no action needs to be taken by technology staff. However, if your district configured the DRC Insight Secure Application so that automatic updates are turned off, the technology coordinator for the district needs to update every testing device so that it runs version 12.0 of the secure application. Technology coordinators can find all information on how to ensure the district's technology components are ready by visiting the technology coordinator page on the WIDA Secure Portal. Software downloads and configurations are done through the WIDA Assessment Management System. This is a snapshot of the important 2021-2022 access dates. And if you have any questions about these dates, please do not hesitate to reach out. ELPA training webinars have been posted on the ELPA webpage and can be found under the Trainings tab. This year, the SDE will be hosting monthly webinars focused on providing timely assessment information, updates, and resources that will help administrators successfully navigate the implementation of the various English language proficiency assessments. Each State Department of Education webinar allocates a dedicated period of time for participants to ask questions or clarify policy. The webinars will be a great opportunity for districts, schools, and teachers to collaborate on specific challenges and make connections with other districts across the state. So please join us. All webinars listed on the ELPA webpage can be automatically imported to your calendar by following these steps. First, find the webinar under the Trainings tab. Next, select the title of the training webinar you are interested in attending. Then, select the green Save icon. And last, select the calendar you use at your district.
Hello out there! My name is Karen Striegel, and I am the Special Education Coordinator for Alternate Assessment, Low Incidence Disabilities, and Medicaid School-Based Services. I have 3 updates pertaining to the Idaho Alternate Assessment and 1 related to an ISAT test accommodation. Some of you may remember this image from an Assessment and Accountability newsletter last spring. Well, student test scores for the Idaho Alternate Assessment in ELA and Math are still a moving target. In June, I told you that we had been advised by the U.S. Department of Education that we might be able to report raw scores. However, the waiver was denied because we have to report comparable scores. In other words, proficiency levels. This takes us back to the drawing board about how we can report proficiency levels when we could not conduct valid standard setting to get cut scores. So, we might be using the cut scores from one of our partner states in our alternate assessment item sharing consortium. Their standards are similar to ours, and they test students on their alternate assessment in the same grades that we test students for the Idaho alternate assessment. We recognize that this is a less than optimal situation. Charlie Silva and I have been working with Kevin Whitman, Director of Assessment and Accountability, who is working with the State Board of Education to figure out the details. I'll keep you posted and let you know as soon as I know something definitive. A few words about the Spring 2022 Idaho Alternate Assessment Test Administration. The ELA and Math assessments will be live, and the science will be an operational field test. We will conduct standard setting for all 3 assessments during summer 2022, with the scores being available in fall 2022. I will need a boatload of SPED and Gen Ed teachers for these standard setting events, and I will start recruiting in January. I am excited to tell you about the alternate assessment test forms that will be available in spring 2022. Of course, we will have the online computer adaptive test that students took last spring. We will have 3 fixed test forms as well. We will have the fixed form with printed response option cards that some students used last spring. Students access test content and human voice recordings in the test delivery system, use the printed response option cards to indicate their answer choice, and the teacher will assist or scribe the student's answer choice in the test delivery system. Students with a need may also take the alternate assessment using a fixed form with embossed graphics. The teacher will help the students access test content with human voice recordings online. The teacher will present the embossed graphics for items and response options as appropriate. And the teacher will scribe the student's answer choice in the online test delivery system. Finally, a full paper version of the alternate assessment will be available to students who are unable to access test content online or on a computer. The teacher will launch the online test to activate the human voice recordings while the student accesses test content using the paper test. The teacher will scribe the student's answer choices in the test delivery system. These 3 fixed form options would only be available to students with a specific need as documented in the IEP, and they would require an IEP accommodation and SDE approval. We are not talking about very many students. For example, only 13 students took their alternate assessment in ELA and Math using printed response option cards last spring, and no students used them for science. I only know of 2 students who will need embossed graphics for the Idaho alternate assessment this year. The paper test form is intended for students who cannot access test content on the computer for reasons such as having a seizure disorder. Finally, I have an exciting announcement regarding the speech-to-text or STT accommodation for ISAT. What if I told you there are 2 ways students can access the speech-to-text accommodation this year? First, students can take the red pill and use a third-party software program like Dragon and take the ISAT using permissive mode. Or students can take the blue pill and use the embedded speech-to-text feature in the test delivery system. We anticipate the embedded speech-to-text accommodation being available starting Monday, August 30th for use on interim assessments. It is based on the Google platform, so students who have experience using speech-to-text in Google should transition seamlessly to using the embedded speech-to-text accommodation. Best wishes as you gear up for the 2021-22 school year. Please feel free to contact me whenever you have questions or issues.
Hi everyone, Kevin Chandler here at the department with a few updates for ISAT. First up, I am joined by my new colleague, Maureen Freibrun. She is our new ELA Literacy Assessment Coordinator. Welcome, Maureen. Next up, the SDE received some feedback on our newsletters and webinars, so based on that feedback, we are incorporating the science updates into the ISAT sections of the newsletters and webinars. This was recommended so as to reduce redundancy. And with those introductory remarks, I'll throw it over to Maureen.
Hi everyone, my name is Maureen, as Kevin Chandler mentioned. I'm thrilled to be a part of the Idaho Assessment team. Our first update starts with our Idaho portal. Cambium Assessment, our testing vendor, has performed a significant cosmetic update to the Idaho portal. This update will carry over many of the functionalities already in place, but will streamline and modernize the look and feel of the Idaho portal. The URL for the Idaho portal is the same. You can find it on the left side of the screen. Systems can be accessed through the Browse by Assessments cards. There are also quick access cards along the bottom. They indicate where to find secure browsers, important dates, and practice and training tests. If you click on the Resource tab on the top right, you will find the Resources page where you can search for user guides, quick guides, and other resources.
The Idaho SDE wants your feedback. We have designed and published a survey that asks for your opinions on the support that is provided by us, the Idaho SDE Assessment and Accountability Department, and our various test vendors. The thoughts and opinions garnered in the survey will help us tailor the support we provide to Idaho's educators. The survey is available now and is linked on this slide. If you have already submitted feedback, thank you. Only one submission is necessary. The survey will close on September 13th.
Student performance data from the Spring 2021 ELA and Mathematics Summative ISATs will be in reporting. Remember that the student has to have completed and submitted both the CAT and the PT portions of their ELA and Math ISATs to receive an overall scale score. Also remember that groups of students, rosters, will receive claim level performance data from the ELA and Mathematics adjusted form. Individual students will not receive claim level performance data because the adjusted form was administered to students in Spring 2021. Remember that the Spring 2021 Science ISATs were independent field tests. Therefore, students will not receive an overall score or an individual student report. C. Reporting claim target symbols for Spring 2021 Summative Test Quick Guide PDF on the Idaho portal for summaries of the meaning of the proficient and weaker strong symbols for students' performance on targets that will be shown in reporting for the Spring 2021 ELA and Mathematics Summatives. Additional resources for reporting are available on the Idaho portal. Remember that reporting has rolled over to school year 21-22. Therefore, to see student performance data from school year 2021, you have to change the reporting time period. So in the upper right-hand corner, click on My Settings, then click on Change Reporting Time Period. That will allow you to rewind the clocks and see Spring 21 summative data.
As Maureen mentioned, our testing vendor, Cambium Assessment, has created several PowerPoint training modules that walk you through how to use the basic and advanced features of reporting. All the training modules are helpful, but the How to Drill Down into Your Results by Selecting Previous School Years and Previous Students PowerPoint is particularly helpful in that it shows you how to change reporting time period to see student performance data from previous school years.
There are other resources on the Idaho portal that will help you interpret the data presented in reporting. First up is the Reporting Claim Target Symbols for Spring 2021 Summative Tests Quick Guide. This handy-dandy resource models the meaning of the proficient and weak or strong symbols and also gives a potential interpretation of what each combination of those symbols can mean.
And then there is also the Reporting and Scoring FAQ. In addition to answering frequently asked questions about reporting and scoring, it also graphically illustrates the ELA and math scale score ranges and achievement level cut scores, which you can see here. A lot of helpful information in this resource, so be sure to check it out.
Let's look forward into the 21-22 school year. The interim testing window is August 10, 2021 to February 25, 2022. Blueprints are available on the Idaho portal. Answer keys for the ELA and Math SICAs and the Science interims are located in TIDE. In the upper right corner, click on General Resources, then Interim Test Scoring Materials. Answer keys for the ELA and Math ICA, IAB, and FIAB are on Tools for Teachers. On the left flyout, click on the Interim Assessment Item portal. Remember that interim answer keys are secure documents and should be treated as such.
As with last school year, the interims can be administered in either a standardized or non-standardized administration. With a standardized administration, a TA creates a test session, and students take the interim via the test delivery system. With a non-standardized administration, educators can use the Assessment Viewing Application, or AVA, to administer an interim using formative assessment techniques. Additionally, the remote interim testing site will be available on August 10th. Students can use a conventional browser to access the remote interim testing site in order to take an interim. Next up is an update for districts that applied for and were determined eligible for the Governor's Learning Loss Funds. All students who are in grades 3 through 8 and 10 in the spring of 2021 supported using the K-12 Learning Loss Funds in programs relevant to general content remediation and ELA literacy or math must take the ISAT comprehensive interim assessments in the relevant subject areas between August 10 to September 10, 2021 and December 1 to December 10, 2021. Students can take either the full Interim Comprehensive Assessment, ICA, consisting of a CAT portion and a performance task portion, or the shortened Interim Comprehensive Assessments, SICAs, consisting of only a CAT portion. At the start of the 2021-2022 school year, students will participate in the ICA or SICA associated with their spring 21 grade level. In December, students will participate in the ICA or SICA for their current grade. The chart shown on this slide illustrates this schedule. The SDE will report the percentage of students at each of the 4 performance levels: below basic, basic, proficient, advanced, on the spring 21 ISAT summative administration, and then during these fall and winter ICA or SICA administrations. Cells in gray, listed with an NA, indicate the student does not have to participate because there is not a spring 21 assessment as a reference for measuring changes in performance. However, districts and charter schools can still administer interim assessments to these students based on interim assessment availability and local preferences. For additional questions, contact the Assessment and Accountability Department via email. assessments@sde.idaho.gov. At the recording of this presentation, tide rollover for school year 21-22 is on the horizon and is scheduled to go live on August 10th. Remember that passwords will be cleared out, so all users will have to create a new password for school year 21-22. Also remember that students will be cleared out of Tide, so users should plan to upload students into Tide when it becomes available on August 10th. See the importance date page on the Idaho portal for more information on when other Cambium assessment systems come online for school year 21-22.
As Chandler mentioned, students can take the interims remotely using the remote testing site. Looking forward to the summatives, the Idaho SDE is working internally to solidify a plan for the availability of remote summatives.
And that decision-making process also goes for the use of the adjusted blueprints. Recall that in school year 2021, all students were administered tests according to adjusted blueprints. As of today, the Idaho SDE is still considering whether to go back to a full blueprint for ELA and math summative ISATs. As soon as those decisions are rendered, we will let you know.
Hello, my name is Maureen Frybren and I'm the new English Language Arts and Literacy Assessment Coordinator. If you have any questions regarding the Idaho Reading Indicator or the ELA ISAT, please do not hesitate to contact me. The testing window for the Idaho Reading Indicator or the IRI is August 2nd through September 30th. If your district or charter school received the Governor's K-4 Learning Loss Funds, fall IRI testing for students supported using these funds must be completed by September 10th. Remote administration for the fall IRI has been approved. I would also like to let you know that an updated testing administration manual will be available on our website in the coming weeks. The legislature passed a new bill over the summer. Senate Bill number 1006 now states in Section 33-1806, Reading and Literacy Assessment, Line 4, that the administration of the state K-3 assessment is to be done in the local school districts by individuals chosen by the district other than the regular classroom teacher. In other words, for the mandatory fall and spring administration of the IRI, a trained individual other than the classroom teacher must administer the IRI. Online training vignettes can be found on our website. Professional development is available this fall for the IRI through iStation. An email was sent out to district testing coordinators with links to register. There are opportunities for both administrators and teachers. Listed here are the administrator opportunities. There are 2 dates you can choose from, August 11th at 9 a.m. or August 25th at 9 a.m. You only need to choose one session. If you are unable to attend any of the dates, please still register. A recording of the session will be emailed to the email address you used to register. Listed here are the teacher opportunities. There are 4 dates you can choose from. August 9th at 9 a.m., August 17th at 1 p.m., August 23rd at 9 a.m., August 31st at 1 p.m. You only need to choose one session. If you are unable to attend any of the dates, please still register. A recording of the session will be emailed to the email address you used to register. Please refer to the email that was sent to DTCs and/or our August newsletter for the links to register. The Braille order form for the IRI is now available. A Jotform link was emailed to DTCs. Please submit your order by August 18th. I would briefly like to review the Fall 2021 iStation enhancements that you may already be aware of, as they were announced earlier this year. iStation will be moving to the web. It will be called WebAssembly, and it will allow Chromebook users to access iStation through a URL, improving iStation's capabilities. PowerPath is the new user experience for iStation. There is a training video to introduce PowerPath on Edmodo. Use the code listed here to join the course. Visit the IUG to watch an informational video as well to learn more.